Hello and welcome to the English Department's Year 11 Curriculum Evening presentation. My name is Mr. Lau, I'm the Head of English, and I'll be talking to you briefly about what the English curriculum looks like at GCSE and what your son still has yet to do this year in Year 11. So, as you're probably aware, there are two GCSEs that your son is working towards. One is English language and the other is English literature. I'm going to start off by talking to you very briefly about English language. So, in the English language, or for the English language GCSE, there are two papers. Paper one. Paper one was completed in year 10. So, the study of paper one was completed in year 10. And during lockdown, we did quite a bit of retrieval practice for paper one. So, a lot of revision. Your son actually had the opportunity to have a mini recovery curriculum, which he started a few weeks ago, and that had a focus on actually retrieval practice for this particular paper, just making sure that he was able to revise that content from year 10. Now, this paper is slightly different to the paper your son is currently studying because it's a fiction paper with explorations in creative writing and reading, and it's one text. So it's one literature fiction text. They'll have 4 questions to answer in the reading question section and then another question to answer in the writing section. The question in the writing section is 40 marks, and what's really important here is the 16 marks for technical accuracy, which ultimately is making sure they're using the correct spelling, punctuation, and grammar. Now, this is a significant increase than previous years and the legacy specification, and it actually shows the importance of your son reading widely to ensure that he's exposing himself to high quality grammar and high quality vocabulary. Now, the second paper is the non-fiction paper, and it's writers' viewpoints and perspectives, and this is the paper your son is currently studying. So he will have, like paper one, 5 questions, 4 in the reading section, section A, and 1 in the writing section. Now, the slight difference about this paper is that there are 2 extracts rather than 1. One will be a non-fiction text from the 19th century, and one will be a non-fiction, usually a non-fiction literary text from the 20th or the 21st century. So there's a slight difference there in the 2 texts, and also the fact that they're both non-fiction. The writing task here will be to write for a particular write to present a particular viewpoint or perspective, and your son will have to employ a number of rhetorical devices to ensure that he's able to actually answer that question properly. Now, we do have a non-examined assessment, or an NEA, and that's our spoken language unit. Now, this will be teacher set, and it's set throughout the course. It will be marked by the teacher, and then there will be a separate endorsement, which ultimately actually is only 0% weighting of GCSE. But AQA, like St. Bond's, believe it's really important for our young people to practice their oracy skills and to become confident communicators. And this is one way that we're able to do this. So in Key Stage 3, we do test our students on their oracy skills, and we do test them for spoken language. And this is also a brilliant chance for them to kind of continue to build that confidence and show that they are able to present, to respond back to questions and feedback, and obviously to use standard English appropriately. Now, what this means for your son is ultimately he needs to show that he can read a wide range of text fluently and with good understanding, that he's reading critically, that he can use standard English in his expression, both written and spoken, and that he's using grammar correctly, punctuating correctly, and spelling correctly. It's also really important that he's able to use a vast range of vocabulary, not only confidently, but accurately. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there is a greater emphasis on spelling, grammar, and punctuation. And what you can do at home to help us is to make sure you are going through any piece of homework that your son has set. I'm encouraging him to redraft and edit, encouraging him to proofread to make sure that he's always giving and handing in his best. So in the run up to Christmas, your son will sit a full English language mock for both papers. This will happen in class at some point over the next few weeks. His language paper 1 will be sat in the next 2 weeks, and language paper 2 will probably be sat just after half term. Your son will now, or at least by half term, have been taught both of his language papers in detail, and he'll be provided with revision sessions, and those will most likely be recorded via Loom and targeted boosters when we have provision to actually have any intervention classes outside of class. However, at the moment, much of our intervention will be class-based, and obviously we will be utilising our online platforms such as the Google Classroom and Show My Homework to share any differentiated resources and intervention resources. And then we move on to English literature. So we have, again, 2 papers for the English literature exam or qualification. There's paper 1, which is Shakespeare and the 19th century novel. This is the paper that we will be doing in year 11. So students will receive guidance. So in the spring, a specific act or chapter in character, and they will use these extracts to focus on how to answer the question in depth so that they can enter that exam confidently, knowing that they can answer the question in an appropriate and successful manner. We also have paper 2, and this is actually the paper that your son studied in year 10. And we started off with our modern text, which is an Inspector Calls. We then moved on to our comparative poetry, and then we did touch upon unseen poetry. Now, as you may know, there are some changes to the AQA curriculum plan for this year and the AQA curriculum offer. And as a result, schools have been asked to choose whether they are going to be sitting the poetry unit, the modern text unit, or the 19th century novel unit. Unseen poetry is non-negotiable, so we will be doing unseen poetry. We have chosen to do the 19th century novel. However, we will still be using our comparative study to practice for the unseen poetry unit. So this term, your son will be starting his 19th century novel. He'll be starting that after November, so towards Christmas. And then he will be starting his play, and that will be after the Christmas break. So revision, how can you help your son? Now, we have a plethora of resources available on the Google Classroom. We have our own revision guides that have been created for your son to use to practice, but we also do recommend using some of the books that you can now see displayed. So CGP are fantastic. They do a number of really fantastic resources, workbooks, as well as books that are solely on content, and we would strongly advise that you do get your son these texts, especially for his literature texts. I would also recommend York Notes. They're also a fantastic offer fantastic revision resources. And also, if your son is a YouTube fan, like many of our young people are, Mr. Bruff's revision videos are absolutely fantastic and a great way for your son to revise. We also do really strongly endorse platforms such as GCSE Pod. We encourage your son to go on there. Fantastic resources for English, along with Seneca, and obviously BBC Bitesize. Also a fantastic resource, a fantastic online platform to revise for English language and English literature. So here are some of the texts that you can purchase for your son. He will tell you, his teacher will have told him which Shakespeare text he's studying, whether it's Macbeth or Merchant of Venice. Please, I do again encourage you, you can purchase one of these for your son, a text guide or a vision guide, and this will be a great aid to him as he's studying these texts. And lastly, one of the main focuses for us over the last few years is really to expand our students' cultural capital. Increasingly, the government is focusing on cultural capital, and students do need to be aware of the world they live in and what shapes it. And this is actually reflected ultimately in the content of public examinations in English. So what I would encourage you to do is to make sure your son always has a challenging reader. This can be fiction or non-fiction, that you are having conversations with them about the wider world, engaging with them about topical issues, and also encouraging them to read widely. Think about what sparks their interest. We do have a reading list that is on the school's website for Key Stage 4. If you haven't gone to look at that, please, I would implore you to do so. And please purchase your son some novels that he can read to kind of help him ultimately do better in English. We always say that the best advice we can offer you to improve in English is to read and read widely. If you do have any further questions, my email address is displayed on the slide now, or alternatively, you can contact Mr. Fleming, who is the Assistant Curriculum Leader in English, with a specific responsibility for Key Stage 4. We look forward to getting your son to where he needs to be for this last academic year of Key Stage 4, and we are confident that the systems that we have put in place this year will ensure his success. Take care. Thank you.